Hi, my name is Dwayne Dietz. I'm with Jones & Jones, architects and landscape architects from Seattle, Washington. I'd like to introduce our design team that's here tonight real quick. We have Bob Calvani from NCA Architects here in Albuquerque. We have Mario Campos from Jones & Jones in Seattle. Ross Tillman from Tillman Group. He's our parking and transportation consultant. We have Bob Ray from Boston. Boston? That's how you say it. He is our business and operations consultant. So this is public meeting number 2. We have another one coming up sometime in June, which will show you in greater detail as we continue to develop the master plan. But what we're here to do today is sort of show you some of the direction we've been going in, show you some of the concepts that we've started to talk about with the BioPark in the city, and to let you know that we're really excited about where we're headed as a design team in terms of the creative nature of the future for the BioPark. So this is the BioPark's mission, to improve educational, recreational, and leisure time opportunities for our citizens and visitors, to increase interest in the New Mexico environment, increase participation in the environmental stewardship, wildlife conservation, and research programs, and to promote economic growth through excellence in exhibits and programs. So why the master plan? The ABQ BioPark master plan, which was written for the Aquarium, Tingley Beach, and the Botanic Garden, was begun in 1992. And since that time, since the Botanic Garden and the Aquarium opened in 1996 and Tingley Beach reopened in 2005, there's just been a tremendous growth in attendance. And the BioPark right now is the most visited attraction in New Mexico. Because of that, we know that parking capacity is now unable to meet demand at peak times. We know that with that great number of people that there are growing demands on facility infrastructure for multiple activities and events. There's a public expectation for a world-class BioPark that includes healthy environments for people, animals, and plants. Along with all that attendance, we know that there's an increased amount of traffic on Central Avenue and in the neighborhoods. We know that from our studies that the limited connectivity between the BioPark elements, between the zoo and the Botanic Garden, is tending to limit visitation. And a lot of the survey comments made note of the dated and aging animal enclosures that they'd like to see improved. So I'll have Bob talk about the survey results and the attendance.
We'll have a sound check. Is that okay? Very good. Okay. So this first slide shows the pattern of attendance over the last 12 or 14 years. And you can see that it's growing upward. The blue bar is the total attendance. And then the green bar is those attendance at the zoo portion of the BioPark. And the red is the Botanic Garden and Aquarium. So they're all going up, and currently you're at over 1.2 million attendance, which is really a substantial attendance pattern for a BioPark in a city like this. Next. Now, this slide shows those same blue, green, red bars by a monthly attendance. So here we see during the summer it really takes off. That's obviously the middle. And then in December, with River of Lights, we have another big spike in attendance. So the master plan really has to take care of those time periods where there are lots of people coming in and all the things about entering the park and parking and the way people move through the park. But then the master plan also has to find ways to make this a more attractive place to come during the shoulder seasons. The shoulder seasons, October, February, March, all that. So that's the challenge to the master plan. And next. Tingley Beach. Now, a big important part of the master plan really is not only the two we've talked about, but it's Tingley Beach as well. There are an estimated 350,000 attendees annually to that location. Though it's free, and that's just an estimate, it's really well used. And that area is going to receive investment in the master plan process just to make it a better place. but also for it to become part of the connection between the two campuses. So Tingley Beach is a very important part of the master planning process. This slide, which obviously no one can read from afar, but the purple line goes way back to 1991 and shows the attendance. And you can see that big spike up. That's when the aquarium was opened, and that was the big leap from attendance of around 600,000 annually, historically, moving way up to almost a million. And again, it continues to show the increase in attendance that I'd spoken about earlier. The green line is the ticket prices over time. And you can see that there's been, a couple of big increases that related to the big investment in the aquarium, and then more recently there was a ticket price increase that really represented a whole long time period where there was no increase. So it's one of those sorts of increases that occurred then. Now, it is interesting to see that substantial increase in ticket price did not have an impact on attendance. Okay, so for some time period, that ticket price will stay that way, and it hasn't shown to affect attendance over time. Okay, next. Now, the public survey, really important to any planning process, is to get the users' input. And this process did get 1,700 members, as well as 1,100 or more of the general public providing input. And these were in close-ended questions, that is to say, which is your favorite place, and you get so many answers of that sort, as well as open-ended questions where you get to write in what you think. So this is a very comprehensive survey in that respect. I'm going to go through some of the responses that were given. The first the first two slides are about who are these people who are answering and what are their characteristics. Now, the green bar is the general public. The purple or blue bar is the members. So they stack together the responses of those two groups. The first portion is under 29-year-old. That's the respondent. 30 to 39, 40 to 49, 50, 60, 70. So what we're seeing here is that this survey tells us a couple of things, that it is representative of lots of folks that go to the zoo. But importantly, it also says that people using the BioPark aren't just the traditional, families with strollers, but there's people of all ages and time of life that are using this. Next. That's backed up by this slide, which says, do you have children living with you? And 60% of the people who are responding to this do not. So again, this is very representative of the community as a whole, and really does represent all sorts of people. The master plan has to and will, and that's the way it's going, it's being planned to really represent and meet the needs of people of all types, ages. Now, this slide speaks about visit frequency, and what's saying, the once a month is the big in the middle, and then every week. To the left says those people who do more than that, and then to the right, rarely once a year, less than once a year. The point of this is that, for the most part, people who use the BioPark go there a lot, right? And so the master plan then is really focusing in on experiences that are repeatable, the amenities that are that you use as you move forward. So that's one important piece of information for the master plan. This slide sites most often visited at the BioPark: Zoo, Botanic Garden, Aquarium, Tingley Beach. And so this really gives different information to the master planning process. For the zoo, we're really saying, what we have to do is make sure we can push this through, make sure that it's really working where the majority of the people are going, and so on. The other portions of this, we're looking to not only do that, but also to find better and more reasons to go to the other campus and to go to Tingley Beach. So this is real input to the direction of the master plan. Next. This is length of stay. More than 2 hours to the left. Most people are 70% more than 2 hours. 1 to 2 hours, up to 1 hour. And this is for the zoo. Okay? The next slide will show The Botanic Garden, whoops, the 1 to 2 hours is where most people are spending about that much time. Next would be the Aquarium, up to an hour. And then finally, Tingley Beach, even less. So again, there's that information that's provided to the master plan about, for the zoo, people are staying more than a couple of hours. Well, we better, take care of them. Internal transportation, they're going to get tired. How can we take care of that? Food and all of that. Restrooms, all of that. And then for the other sites, frankly, we want people to spend more time in those locations. So the master plan is really geared towards making that campus more of a long stay site. Next. This is another one of those, how do you use the BioPark question? And again, it really goes right across the board. Who do you go there with? Spouse or partner? That was for the members, that's the big response. Then friends out of town, that's the purple one. And then for the green, which is the non-members, again, you'll see that with a child, it's only a portion of those visitors. So we're really, again, speaking to multiple audiences. The other thing that's really important about this information, because they can have multiple responses, people are going there sometimes with their friends and relatives, sometimes by themselves, sometimes with the grandchildren, sometimes with the family. Again, so we're really starting to understand how the BioPark is being used. Reasons for visiting. And this is really interesting. Some of these responses are about to learn about the animals, experience the animals. And some are very social in nature. They're enjoy a beautiful day outdoors, enjoy time with family. So a special event is one of these items that's about halfway down. So to teach children about nature. So we're really accommodating all different ways that people are attending. Next. Now, the next couple of slides are admission fee. And you can see, the big answer is just right. And so I will say, we've been doing this a long time. And usually when that answer is up here, this too high column, is way up here, right? But in this case, we have just right is, so we feel good about that for this planning process. Next. And so too the membership to the BioPark Society, just right. So we think that you've got it right on the pricing. This is just that, hey, did I have a great time? How can I rate this place? Excellent, very good, good, fair, poor. So people feel good about the BioPark now. But this master plan has to, over time, sustain that. And so there's a real sense that, the zoo in particular has been around a long time. We've got to reinvest in order to to sustain this place. Okay, so what's this all about? Earlier when I talked about open-ended questions, well, there were 2,800 responses, people writing all sorts of things. How do you capture that? Many people may be familiar with word clouds. Okay, yeah, good. I got lots of nods. Okay, so what it is, they take all those words, they throw them in a pot, they use the computer to say, how many times was the word animals said in their responses, right? And so that's the most frequently said word. This is, there are 3 or 4 of these that come up. This word cloud is, what do you like best? What do you like best about, it had a title, but somehow it didn't go through. What do you like best? And you can see it. Animals, zoo, the word time, what does that mean? It means time with family, right? Enjoy seeing, I see seeing in there, exhibits. So what they're liking about this, the gardens is in there. So we're looking at that and starting to understand what people like broadly in those questions. And one more thing is we're also reading very carefully the comments, in that sense, but how do you convey it in a larger way? Okay, next. Now this is saying, what don't you like? And it looks to me like parking's a problem, with capital P and a small p. There's a lot of people who are looking at parking. The food, people are commenting about the food. There's a couple of words like zoo and animals. Don't be faked out by that. What that means is it's part of a phrase. So somebody was saying the biggest problem at the zoo is the parking. So, ignore certain words that would just be part of a phrase. But we look at some of these and we see crowded. I see the word crowded in there, and that's in medium size. Expensive, very small. So that goes along with our other response. Okay, so as we look at this, we can start to understand what people are having a problem with. We know what they liked, the exhibits, the experiences, what they're having trouble with. The next slide says, hey, what are we looking for the future? And guess what? It goes back to reinforce the core experience. The exhibits, the zoo, the animals. They like to improve the food too. But, the aquarium. So they're looking for those, the gardens, for really emphasis to be put on the experience that people have at the BioPark. Okay, so that gives you a good idea of what we're taking out of the survey. Ross?
So now I get the honor of talking about some of the things people didn't like, the parking, but the access as well. So the BioPark is certainly well situated in the metro area. It's pretty readily accessible from the highways. It's on Central Avenue, Route 66, goes all the way across the community. It's relatively close to the Interstate I-40 and not that much further from I-25. And there are signs to get you from those highways to the BioPark. It's got pretty good transit access, particularly the Rapid Ride and Local 66 on Central Avenue, and the regular ride 53 that travels on 8th. And then it's really well positioned in terms of bicycle access because you have every level of bicycle facility the community offers, either right at or very close to the BioPark. And pedestrians have the benefit of sidewalks on virtually every street. They may not always be wide, but the sidewalks are there, so people can at least be on the safe side of the curb as they walk. Next. So this just illustrates the location of the BioPark relative to all the major arterials and highways that get you there, and the red bits show the major parking areas, and you can see they're quite readily accessible from the major streets. And there's ample capacity on those streets. Central certainly is a busy street. There are times a day when it's a bit crowded, but it's a big street, 6 lanes, a lot of capacity. And because the BioPark's busiest visitation times are typically weekends, there's even more capacity. You're not on Central, you're not competing with the commuter traffic as much. And to the extent that people on a nice day like today may be leaving late in the afternoon, many of them are traveling in the opposite direction of the commuters who are heading home at the end of the workday. So the streets really work pretty well. It's not to say there aren't problems, but on the whole, they're serving pretty well. And again, transit service is good. There's a high frequency of service on Central, particularly with the Rapid Ride. And the stop is right beside the Botanic Garden Aquarium entrance, so that's well located. The zoo, unfortunately, has less access to transit. The bus comes by only once every 45 minutes, and it doesn't operate on Sunday. So there could be some improvements there. This illustrates the routes near the BioPark. You can see the 2 routes on Central. There's also the Route 790 shown in the blue line up there, so it would allow, with a transfer, somebody to come from another part of the community on the Rapid Ride. And then the routes 53 and 54 east of the zoo, and all of those routes do go to the Alvarez Transit Center downtown. So for people who want to use transit, the BioPark is regionally accessible. And this map shows the different bike facilities in the area. Again, with the red line, the Bosque Trail that connects with the regional trail system. The green line shows the bike boulevard, which are low traffic streets, very accommodating to bikes. And you've got different bike lanes and signed bike routes. The dashed red lines may be a little hard to see, but the dashed red lines are suggested connections that would link more of those bike facilities together, make it so you could get from the bike boulevard on Mountain Home Road over to the Bosque Trail, get from the boulevard right down to the entrance of the aquarium, and a little more connections on the east end of the zoo. So parking, overall the BioPark has about 1,500 parking spaces, and that table on the right shows where they are. 590 at the Botanic Garden Aquarium. Tingley Beach has more parking than you would think. There are a lot of dirt lots that are available. And the zoo has 635. Now, the zoo meets or exceeds its parking supply on up to 50 days a year. That's quite a few days. That's most Saturdays from May through July and August. It's other busy days, Mother's Day, special event days, evening concert days. The Botanic Garden and Aquarium are in somewhat better balance, but again, they're up to 20 days a year where they fall short of parking. Most of those are related to the River of Lights Festival in December, and then a few of the summer evening concerts, which do create overflow. What happens with overflow? People start parking in the neighborhoods. That's something we would like to reduce, if not eliminate outright. So that's a goal of ours. Next, please. This looks at a very high day, not the highest day, but the 10th highest day's attendance based on 2013's information as to what's happening at the zoo, the garden and aquarium, and then the BioPark overall. You can see on the left, the titles got switched. I'm sorry. The one on the left is actually the Botanic Garden and Aquarium. The orange bar represents the demand on that 10th busiest day. The green bar represents how many parking spaces there are. So as you can see, there's a pretty good surplus of parking at the Aquarium Botanic Garden. In the middle, it shows the zoo's situation. And again, you have much more demand than there are spaces at the zoo. Again, meaning people are hunting for parking elsewhere in the neighborhood. Maybe they go up to the Botanic Garden and then take the train back. And then so that's the 10th highest day at the zoo, the Botanic Garden. The 10th highest day for the BioPark overall shows it's just barely in balance. There are only a handful more parking spaces than there is demand. So it means if there's any growth, the park's going to be short of parking. So the distribution of demand and the distribution of supply don't match. You can see on the left here, the Aquarium Botanic Garden has 29% of the total demand, but it has 40% of all the spaces in the BioPark. At the opposite end, the zoo has almost 2/3 of the demand on that busy day, but it only has 43% of the parking supply. So that's an imbalance that we want to improve upon. So what happens if there is growth? And this is just a what-if case. What if attendance grows 30% over the next many years, say the next 15 to 20 years? What would happen to parking? And the slightly gray line is the projected total parking demand by day of the year. The little red square highlights what would be the 10th busiest day of the year under this 30% growth case. And you can see that red square is a bit above the horizontal black line. The black line is the number of parking spaces. So the projected increase in demand is higher. There's more demand than there's parking to accommodate those people by about 200 spaces. So that tells us something about how much more parking we need to anticipate providing. And how might you provide extra parking? This shows, the red bits show the existing surface lots, and the yellow bits show potential expansions in surface parking. At the southwest corner of the aquarium, you could reconfigure that area and perhaps gain 90 spaces. Paving the dirt lot on the north side of Tingley Beach could add another 25 spaces. When the lot is marked, it can be used more efficiently. And there is an outside chance or an option of doing a lot at the north side of the zoo that could create quite a few spaces, 285 spaces. Now, so the message there is there are options to meet the potential growth in parking demand, and they don't take radical or drastic measures. So that's good news. Once you're already at the BioPark, how do you move around? It's a long linear park, 2.5 miles end to end. That's further than most people are willing to walk, certainly if they have small children or they have difficulty walking on their own. Right now, the train connects the Aquarium Botanic Garden to the zoo, but it has limitations in being able to meet the busier day's demands. It operates only once every half hour, has a limited number of people per train, and people who buy the combo pass allows you to visit both the zoo, the Aquarium and Botanic Garden. If you come a little late on Saturday, you don't get to buy the pass because there's not enough capacity on the train to move you back and forth. So there's an obvious opportunity to make that situation better. So the framework we're contemplating for the future is to have a new shuttle service that links the Aquarium Botanic Garden with the zoo that gets you closer to the ticketing areas, and that also then serve some of the key parking locations along that. And it's going to be particularly important as you have the opportunity to market the BioPark to more out-of-town visitors, that they have a clear place to go, that they know what is the front door of the BioPark, that they can be directed there. And once there, then they have the opportunity to move wherever they want within the larger BioPark. So again, that's the basic framework. The red bits also show some potential opportunities to do a deck over a parking lot. And when I say a deck, I mean just a single level over an existing surface lot. So not a big structure, something that could be very light, that could provide shade and provide more parking where it could really benefit visitors. And again, that could be tied in with the new shuttle system. So that's the basic framework we're contemplating right now.
I think we're going to emphasize here that the shuttle becomes a very important piece in making all these three work closely together. Because at the moment, there's limited transportation between the aquarium and botanic garden and the zoo. Regardless of how you drive to that, you know, you buy your ticket, you have one day to see a lot of exhibits and displays. So, and the train is really not an option. So we're thinking that the shuttle that connects the zoo to Tingley Beach and to the aquarium will move frequently and will allow people to move efficiently between those. We're also thinking that because there is better transit or public transportation on Central, that if you park someplace there, that shuttle would also make it accessible to get back to the zoo. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what's the opportunities that we're looking at the zoo. There are many areas that are crowded because there are many buildings. There are some areas that are underutilized. There's actually a lot of space for growth. This zoo has tremendous public outreach. There's a big education component with classrooms and it's really active. So that purple area is where we identify there are most of the amenities for people. And we see perhaps opportunities for other buildings to go there, utilize the lake and the lawn in front of the lake, and then identified areas where some of the animal exhibits can be expanded, particularly those that are a little bit crowded, but that are very old, that need better areas. So we're thinking that some of those, instead of each animal species having its own house and yard, to maybe combine them into larger habitats, you know, those that are compatible, so that it will feel like it's bigger, and so on. We're also trying to bring a little bit more of water into the experience of the animals. mostly because we think that I know we're in the desert, but the Rio Grande is what makes life possible in Albuquerque because of the bosques and the wetlands and the water, and use this water, which is represented in blue there, as both a way of collecting and treating water, so that then it can be used to create some habitat that can benefit the animals. At least, if not for them to access that, but visually to treat some water, to create some habitat and do that. So these are just some ideas. Then we go to the next slide. We're looking at perhaps one of the biggest improvements we can do at the moment is to clarify the circulation for the visitor experience at the zoo. At the moment, when you get in there, it's a little confusing of where to go. And then you may go and start with the gorillas and the orangutans, and then get to Africa, and then you get to the back and you may be totally tired. By the time you get to elephants, you don't know if you're still in the front or the back, and there's no way of getting back. So we want to make sure that you can come in the front door and maybe follow a promenade and open that up a little bit more and get to a point where, perhaps you can, it's a bit of a hub, and you make some decisions, gather the family, you see the lake, and then perhaps from there go and continue. But the other promenade should continue like a spine all the way through to the back of this, to the end of the zoo, and create different nodes that will be perhaps a place to where you can add new exhibits. There where the arrow is right now, that node is more intense on education. So when you bring the kids or you go into the classrooms, it's in there. It's also closer to the restaurants. You may see some exhibits on animals when you're in there, but it's a nice walk in the park. And then from that big spine of circulation, you could take smaller trails or loops where you can visit some of the consolidated animal areas. Then when you get to the very end, if you're pretty tired, there might be what we're calling a people mover, and this is a smaller vehicle with shade and rubber tires that will shade the promenade, so you can take it all the way back to the entry, and you can jump on and off that small vehicle. And the zoo already has some of those. It's just a matter of deciding the routes and implementing, how to use that. You can just get on it, get off of that, and then we're looking at the possibility of instead of the existing train that takes you to Tingley and the Botanic Garden and Aquarium at the moment, is to just create a new station someplace in the zoo. In this case, could be closer to the entry, and then transfer to that, and that will be the shuttle that will take you very quickly to Tingley Beach and or the Aquarium and Botanic Garden. Right. Another opportunity would be to the next slide. So instead of putting it there, is putting it more towards the back of the zoo. So you would have gone through your whole pedestrian experience, you would have done some of the trails, and then from at that location, it's another hub, you can transfer to that shuttle, it will take you back to the other. Or if you come from the other facilities, you started your day at the Aquarium and Botanic Garden, you'll come here and start your experience there. And if you notice here where we thought, well, what if we keep the train? The train is a nice ride. It's been there for a while. Some kids like it. And we thought that if we keep it, and we need to assess the feasibility of that, it would not be transportation. It's a ride. It's just for enjoyment. It's very slow. You may see some exhibits from it. We'll try to make it so this in the more of a front exhibit, and rather than just a back door experience. Because right now you cannot see many things from that train. And there are many crossings with pedestrians and conflict. So we'll try to simplify it. So we need to study the feasibility of that. It's not a priority, but it will be separate if we keep that. So another way of doing this will be, and in this option we put the shuttle station also towards the north side of the zoo. That opens up. There's a very nice cottonwood forest back there that has a lot of shade, and right now very few people go to that back. But if we had a station there for both the people mover and the shuttle, that opens the possibility to have more events, perhaps a bigger pavilion to do things back there, to rent it, to have classrooms, but also to open up a new area for added exhibits at that end of the zoo. So that would help to move people because everyone gets to the front and spends a lot of time there, and it can feel crowded in the heavy use days. That way you can start the experience at the back, and that seems very attractive. And if not, do it again in the front. So we're assessing these possibilities. We're also looking at how some programs that are very successful at the zoo can grow. There's some priorities with maintenance. There's priorities with that some animal species that are pretty bad shape, like the whole cat collection. Some of those buildings are in pretty bad shape, and the whole catwalk. We may be thinking that some of those could be located in new areas, and as we identify new opportunities. Let's go to the next one. So, we are going to be doing a series of little vignettes, and this is very early, but what are the opportunities to perhaps, in this case, mix and add some birds to a continuous loop that allow you to go and see more of the elephant, because at the moment you can only see a little bit of the front end of the barns, and at distance you can see the bull elephants, but perhaps there's a way of bringing people closer. So we might do 5 or 6 or 7 of this more in detail. Right now it's just beginning to get into this idea.
Okay. So we do want to just briefly touch on the fact that one big element of the zoo, because it was originally built in 1927, that the utilities in the zoo have accumulated over time. One of the issues we need to deal with as we look at future expansion is how do we take advantage of what's there, what needs to be repaired, and then where do we go in the future. So we did a quick assessment of power, the sanitary sewer, which has got some interesting old clay pipe still running through it that's probably nearly choked with cottonwood roots. Storm drainage, there's basically the zoo mostly holds the water on site. And then the water system, basically most of the zoo is fed from a single 8-inch meter at the front of the zoo, and then the water is filtered out throughout there. So yeah, we are looking at everything. I mean, it's tough to find people who want to donate for a sewer line, if anybody is interested. But it's one of those things. It's not very. It's a key element of the zoo that needs to be addressed, but it's something almost nobody ever sees because it's underground. We just want to remind people that it's not just the above ground stuff, but we have to look at everything, both top and underground, to make sure we build the best zoo possible over the next 20 years. We have a few more, if you don't mind. So we do want to look at the Botanic Garden. And so part of what we looked at in terms of the shuttle is to actually bring the current train station to Sears. We want to bring the shuttle drop-off to where the existing drop-off is at now for school buses, make that a shuttle and school bus drop-off, bring it up into an education building and a possible new otter exhibit at the front of the aquarium, and then build on the success of the 1996 part of the Botanic Garden. A big idea is to actually take the large conservatory, which has basically just tropical plants, and is actually turn it into a tropical butterfly conservancy that would be a year-round feature. Currently, there's a seasonal tropical butterfly house over off to where just past where the model trains are at. There's a new element that will be built, I think, by the end of next year called the Bugarium, which will basically expand the dragonfly pond and give kids a chance to get hands-on with insects. Keep this little mouse going. One of the is as you go underneath the conservatory and you enter the newer part of the Botanic Garden, is we want to do a little station so that people who get out to the end have a way of getting back to the main gate. We want to sort of extend that up and around the farm, and then come back in past the new Cottonwood Gallery, do a little stop, and we're thinking that that would be a great spot for like a little environmental summer camp where the Botanic Garden education staff can take kids through both the Cottonwood Gallery and then have a trail access that would allow them to walk through the bosque. So you'd be able to drop off kids here. They can do a little summer camp experience, have hands-on activities with the Cottonwood Gallery, and then go see nature in the wild in the bosque. And then the other thing we've been starting to talk about is building on what's happening with the Cottonwood Gallery and doing a sort of New Mexico-based flora and fauna type exhibits, looking at the various habitat types that occur throughout New Mexico, and looking at really at the endangered plant species that have been mentioned in some of the U.S. Forest Service literature, and basically use that as a program for propagation and to help spread and maybe even reintroduce these plants back into nature. Another key successful program is the Silvery Minnow Hatchery. We want to, which is currently here, we want to keep it isolated, keep it out of public view. There might be a few tanks as part of the education center, or as part of the flora and fauna exhibit that allow people to actually see silvery minnows up close. But this is such a critical conservation effort that we want to make sure it's an ongoing enterprise. We'll skip that one, and I want to go to sort of what we're looking at. There we go. We want to do it. Right now there's a portable classroom that's in pretty, I would say, good to poor shape. Right now we'd like to do a more permanent classroom facility that would have an overlook onto a new otter exhibit. There'd be underwater viewing. As part of this, we would propose actually doing a shuttle ticketing station. So if you came in by shuttle, if you've purchased a ticket at the zoo, there'd be a turnstile to let you through. Or if you've gotten on a Tingley Beach, it's an opportunity to pay to get in. The main ticketing, which is currently located here, we would locate closer to the parking lot. So as you came into the plaza area, you knew exactly where you'd purchase a ticket, and then you'd have a clear view of the otter exhibit. So your first draw would be to come into Otter, and then go through the aquarium, and then proceed on into the Botanic Garden. And then Tingley Beach, which is pretty cool in its own right. One of the things we've been thinking about in terms of reestablishing a shuttle stop is if we end up with a little bit of extra parking areas, people can walk. People who are in the know, understand the parking situation at the zoo and the Botanic Garden, can pull in here and within 5 minutes be either at the zoo or the Botanic Garden, not have to search for parking in those two locations. So the purple line is the shuttle route. Stop at the existing, the old train station there. And then I think we are recommending that you could possibly partner with the Audubon Society and make this a Bosque Bird Interpretive Center, where you could go and learn about the wildlife in the bosque and then take advantage of the little trail connection that's already existing, so people can walk out on their own and explore and try to find the birds that they've just heard about at the center. What I'm really excited about, there's such a great art collection that's started at Tingley, and I think this has a real opportunity of becoming one of the largest outdoor sculpture parks in the United States. With just a few modifications to the walkway and adding a couple more little connections. I think right now there are 28 pieces of art out there. There's probably room for another 50 to 75. And to have that to be able to say that you've got one of the largest public sculpture parks in the United States, I mean, that's pretty cool. So that's something I think that you can really build on. And what's really interesting about it, because it's also a long Tingley Beach drive, it becomes this linear art experience for people who are driving by at 30 miles an hour, who don't want to stop, but they can say art, 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 art. Okay, move on. So that's the end of our presentation. Now we'll start taking questions. And I think to do this is we're going to pass the mic around so that everybody can hear the question, and then